Travel Hour fam, what's good? We back at it with another episode. Today we have an amazing guest, the homie Eileen Ivette, who is an award-winning video producer and the creator of Black Latin History. Eileen, how you doing today? And
I'm
what's going on?
doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's good to have you on the show as a guest. I know we got a chance to connect down in Brazil at the Black Travel Summit in the middle of a waterfall. And I remember having a conversation. I'll never forget this. We were sitting there like in the middle of the waterfall, and I think one of the homies walks up and was like, "Hey, like you're Eileen." And I'm listening and looking. I'm like, "Okay." And he's like, "Yeah, like you're Black Latin history, like too." And then I was like, when we got on the bus, I was like, "Let me check out her stuff." Saw your content and immediately was just like, yo, like I love the work that you're doing. So
Yeah.
appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely remember that too. I actually remember even before we got to the waterfall, we were on the bus and I think the guide had asked me if I had children and I said absolutely not. And then you chuckled. And I think that's how we started, like, we introduced ourselves to each other, and then obviously we're hiking in the middle of a forest in Brazil. It's crazy how, shout out to Black Travel Summit, honestly, because I love going to conferences and meeting other creators, and everyone does their own thing and on their own, what is it, niches, however you want to pronounce it. And we just had like a beautiful Black time in Brazil. Like, shout out to us.
That's a fact. That's a fact. I think that was my first time. Well, it was my first time going to Black Travel Summit.
Hmm.
And it was like my first time being in Brazil. And that was the first day. So I didn't know what to expect, but it was super organized. And I like the fact that, we hopped off of some black shit. Like we in the middle of a Colombo and
Yep.
we were here with like 4 Sprinter vans full of black people and we just having a great time. So definitely shout out to Black Travel Summit. And actually you were nominated for an award while you were there. Is that correct?
I was. I'm trying to remember what I was nominated for. I was nominated for Best Short Form Video. My homegirl Nicole won, though, for her amazing video on the history of reggaeton in Panama, which was phenomenal. It was great. But yeah, I always loved Black Travel Summit. So that was my second time going. Third time in Brazil, second time at the Black Travel Summit. And it was my first time speaking international. So that was like there was a lot of firsts for me during that too, but that's why I do love, like, especially speaking to newer creators, I'm always like, you need to go to conferences. You need to go to conferences, especially conferences that are for us, by us, because you start seeing the multiple of ways that people do content creation as a business and how we all exist in this like ecosystem of being a creator. And then you get to like meet with brands, you get to do dinners and stuff. And a lot of like those connections and that networking happen at the at the quilombos, at the tours, at the like random places that you least expect to like meet people. But yeah, I'm ready to go back to Brazil. Brazil is like my happy place.
You know what? It's a special place. I'm actually headed back in two
I'm
days.
so jealous.
Yeah,
Where are
look,
you going?
I'm I'm geeked. So we're gonna do Rio this time. Last time I went, I did Salvador and I did Sao Paulo and I finished up in Rio. But
Okay.
this time's a little shorter trip, so I'm just gonna be down there for 10 days.
The
And I keep
shorter
telling my
trip
friends,
in days.
yeah, the first time I went, I was there for like almost 6 weeks.
Sheesh. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yes, some friends told me they were just sitting there and they was like, if you're gonna go to Brazil, trust me, I'm going for 10 days. They're like, that's not gonna be enough. You're gonna want because you're only gonna stay. And I'm like, what? So I was like, all right, cool. Like I got the time. Let me go ahead and just map it out. And
Mhm.
so I started off in Sao Paulo. I spent like a week there, and then I went up to Salvador for like another 4 days. And then we finished the trip down to Rio. So I spent like 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks in Rio. But my only regret is I didn't spend more time in Salvador.
Yeah, same. The first time I went, I've actually only been in Salvador once now that I think about it. And I was in Salvador for maybe 3 days, 3 or 4 days out of a 9-day trip. And I'm like, I need to get back to Salvador. Like, there's no place like it. It's just, damn. I'm excited for you to go. I'm jealous, but I'm excited for you to go.
Yeah, I love it. It just feels like home. Like Rio's dope too, but Salvador's different. Like I feel like when I'm in Salvador, it's giving like Houston, Atlanta with a beach. It's just black people
Mhm.
everywhere. The
Yeah.
food is amazing, and then you
Mhm.
just got like this slow, laid back pace of life. So
Yeah.
it's vibes on vibes. Definitely love it.
Yeah. The food is
But
definitely way better in Salvador than it is in Rio. Like, it's spicy in Salvador. And I'm not like a spice queen, like, I don't have to have spicy food, but I do feel like the seasoning and the flavor profile is a little better in Salvador, especially because it's more seafood. I feel like Rio is very, like, red meat heavy, like, very steak. And you just get tired of eating steak after a while. So I do like Salvador for that too.
Yeah, that Churrasco, they got it on every corner out there.
That and, like, some type of fried bread, fried cheese, some fried in steak.
Yeah, yeah, the veggies, you gotta go hunt for them a little bit, but, I definitely I definitely get it. Speaking of Houston, though, you grew up in Houston, but you have Colombian roots. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I am born and raised in Houston, Texas, on the southwest side, but both my parents are from Buenaventura, Colombia, which is on the Pacific coast of Colombia. Most people, when they are first introduced to Colombia, they think of like Cartagena, Barranquilla, Santa Marta, which is all on the Caribbean coast, which I know for people who are actually of Caribbean descent, they're like, that's not the Caribbean coast. Culturally, in Colombia, that is the Korean coast or the Atlantic coast, right? And Colombia is one of the only like South American countries that has both Caribbean and Pacific coast. And that plays a huge role in the cultural differences between the Black communities, right? And so my family is from the Pacific, El Pacifico, as we call it. And it is, it holds a very special place in my heart. My mom used to send my sister and I, my older sister and I, back to Colombia every summer when we were younger, from like age 5 to 14. And we would spend time in Cali, Colombia, which is the salsa capital of the world, which is also like hella Black, right? And Buenaventura. But unfortunately, Buenaventura over the years has become a wee bit dangerous. And so going back to Buenaventura isn't something that we often do now, but we try to go back to Cali as often as we can. And so yeah, I grew up immersed in Black Colombian culture. Houston surprisingly has a lot of Black Colombians, especially from Buenaventura. Like, I always say it's a little Buenaventura because every Colombian I grew up around in Houston and in Colombia was from Buenaventura. That played a huge role in me, like, being confused as to why people didn't understand that Colombians was Black, because the Colombia I know and knew is hella Black and hella proud. But yeah, I grew up Houston, Texas, in Cali and Buenaventura.
That is one hell of a mix.
No, like, my dad is, and I want to, so y'all can picture it, my dad is like big, like Notorious B.I.G. big type, right? Same skin tone, like he's dark skinned, big guy. And my mom, she essentially looks like me, but she's like maybe 2 or 3 shades lighter. And so these are like very Black, you know what I'm saying? Very Black people. And people, my mom, she's always only spoken to me in Spanish and I respond in English. And when like we're in Houston, we're out shopping and stuff, and people hear her speaking, they never believe that she's speaking Spanish because they can't believe that this Black lady is in Spanish. They're like, "Oh, what language you're speaking?" And she's like, "We're in Houston. I know you've heard Spanish before." Like, what language? So, just so you paint the picture of what my parents look like.
That's a key point. I remember I used to live in Houston, and I quickly found out somebody told me they were like, Houston's actually more diverse than New York City.
Yep.
And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And then I got down, I'm like, I'm thinking these are, white folks, black folks, and Mexicans. And I'm like, "Oh, there's Cubans here. Oh, there's Venezuelans here. Or you got
Mhm.
Colombians here. Or you got everybody from Central America that came here. You got a huge Asian population that I didn't know
Mhm.
about."
You have a huge Nigerian population too, like, there's so many Nigerians in Houston. Yeah.
Yes, they deep down in Dallas and Houston, like all Nigerians. I don't know what y'all put out a BPA out there, but they deep out there. 'Cause what's your name like Ben? You be like, oh, then you meet Ben and Ben be like Ben will hold you. I'm like, oh, you Nigerian Ben. Okay, okay.
It is always, like, a short, condensed version of this very long name, and you'd be like, "Why didn't you just tell me that from jump? Like, give me your full name. Teach me how to pronounce it, because I don't know, I have a thing about people shortening their names so that other people can pronounce it easier, and I'm just like, "No, no, 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 no. Own it," right? Like, my sister's name is Kiara, Kiara, and people have always said it wrong. They always call her Kiera, right? And after a while, she's just be like, "It's whatever." But I'm like, "No, it's Kiara. Like, it's not it's not hard." It's not hard to say. It's 5 letters. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm big on like, just give me a name, teach me how to say it, and I will say your full name. Do not give me like a Western colonized, whitewashed version of your name because you don't think I'm gonna be able to pronounce it. But yeah, Houston is extremely diverse, and like every ethnic group that can exist in Houston. And I learned that Houston was like as diverse as it was through food, especially when I left Houston and I went to college in DC. And my roommate she was my freshman roommate. She was Jamaican from New York, from Brooklyn, New York, right? And the first day she's like, her mom is going to grab us breakfast. And she was like, "Oh, Eileen, what do you want for like breakfast or whatever?" And I'm like, "Oh, can I get a sausage, egg, and cheese lachi?" And she's looking at me like, "A what?" And I was like, "A sausage, egg, and cheese kolache." And she was like, "Eileen, what the hell is a kolache?" And I was like, "A kolache." She was like, "I don't know what that is. You wanted a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant?" And I was like, "Yeah, that works." That was my first understanding of like, oh, kolaches are very Texas, maybe just I think it's all of Texas, but a very specific Houston cross-cultural intersection type of food that does not exist anywhere else outside of the state of Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember passing through. There's a spot over there that's like famous for him. I forgot the name of it, but I was like, "What is a kalak?" When I first saw it, and everybody's trying to explain to you like it's a pastry. You can get it stuffed with like meat on the savory side, or you can get it like stuffed with like something sweeter. And I'm like, "All right, let me try it." But yeah, yeah, I would love me
Yeah.
some. Yeah, that thing was hitting. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna hold you. Yeah, Houston
Definitely.
is an interesting place because you got, and I tell folks this, right? Like you got the Louisiana influence with the food. So you're gonna see some Cajun Creole there, you're gonna have crawfish. You also getting
Mhm.
the seafood, but then you got, the taco truck down the road on every corner, right?
Yeah.
And everybody got they favorite taco truck that they say is the best in the city. And then somebody always barbecuing. Like the funniest thing, I'll tell you this, when I was going to the dentist in Houston, I
Mhm.
remember it was like Thanksgiving time. I had my appointment. I'm talking to the people, and I think like one of the ladies that was helping me out, she was Mexican, so she was like, "Yeah, what do you guys usually eat for Thanksgiving dinner?" And I'm like, turkey, ham. She was like, "Oh, we doing brisket." I said, "Wait, brisket for, for Thanksgiving?"
We do brisket too. We do brisket. We do pernil, which is what is pernil in English? I think it's like pork shoulder or something. I don't eat pork anymore, so I haven't had pernil in a year. Yeah, we barely do turkey. I think we just started doing turkey now because Popeyes has a turkey. I feel like people don't know this, but Popeyes sells a very good seasoned turkey. It's frozen and you have it's frozen and you have to like obviously thaw it out and make it yourself. But let me tell you, that turkey slaps, okay? It is so well seasoned and is juicy. So we've recently started incorporating that Popeyes turkey into things.
Popeyes, y'all heard that? Y'all heard that, Popeyes?
It's really good. Like, I don't know. My boyfriend and I started getting it maybe like 2 or 3 years ago because neither one of us really celebrate. Like, we're both immigrant kids, right? So we didn't Thanksgiving is very much an American holiday, and we thought we were gonna go to, like, a friend's house or something, and then that plan fell through, and he was like, "Oh, I just saw this TikTok about this Popeyes." So he just came home one day with this Popeyes turkey. And it's now a tradition. I made my mama get it 2 years ago. She was a fan. So now Popeye's turkey.
Popeye's turkey and some brisket, y'all, and some of that good old pork. I mean, I'm gonna eat the pork. You can hold it off your fork if you choose to. But yeah, I get it. I think that's an interesting place to be. Houston, I love being there, and I know you. When I told you like, hey, like I used to live in Houston, you like, because everybody and their mama used to live here, right?
Everybody had like, I don't it's really fascinating to me how Houston has become such a, like, hot spot. Like, I feel like a lot of people have moved to Houston, are moving to Houston, are traveling to Houston specifically. Like, wasn't spring break for the kids, like, the college kids in Houston this past that was a mess.
Look, it was not just kids though. That's the problem, right?
which was a mess, right? And I'm just like, I love Houston, but I feel like I haven't really lived in Houston as an adult. So I can't really have I guess I don't have much input into like what is drawing people into Houston now. But as a kid, like my goal was to leave Houston. I was like, I want to get the fuck out of here. Like, like I want to work at fashion magazines and like, sneakers and all these things. And that just wasn't happening in Houston at the time. Now it's like, there's a really cool, like, artsy culture, popping up, but yeah, I'm just like I'm always just so surprised when people are like, "Oh, yeah, I lived in Houston," or, "Oh, I'm traveling to Houston for this bachelorette party," or, like, the rodeo, everybody's trying to go to Houston for the rodeo. I'm like, "Y'all do know it's just, like, a state fair, like, that's what the rodeo it's a state fair, it's a carnival, you can go to a carnival anywhere in America." But yeah, Houston, everybody and their mama in Houston now.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? You feel like folks start moving to Houston, or are you like, I'm neutral on it?
I'm neutral on it, right? Because I don't live in Houston, so, like, the influx of people moving doesn't necessarily affect me because I don't live there. Now when I talk to, like, my cousins and my sister and stuff like that, they are definitely noticing the rise in rent, and also with, like, trying to just, like, go out to eat on a Sunday, you have to have a reservation, right? Like, everything is reservation because everything's Sunday fun day, everything got a DJ, everything a party now, and, college me understands that because I lived in DC and Sunday fun day was a thing too, the day parties, the darties, like, brunch culture was big, so I get it, um, but like I said, I don't live in Houston, that's not my everyday. And then when I am in Houston, I'm specifically going to see my mama. I'm spending time with my family. Like, I'm not going there to like turn up and party and club. So, but outside of like the nightlife and the club culture, I am intrigued to see like what is attracting people to Houston. Like, what is there actually to do besides eat? You know what I'm saying? We don't have many tourist attractions, or at least I don't think we do, but again, that's just me as somebody who, like, grew up there.
No, I feel you. I think as somebody who moved there, it was interesting coming to Houston because when I first saw it, I was like, this is not a pretty city. Like it was just very flat, and I remember just a whole bunch of concrete. I'm like, why the hell did they cut down all the damn trees?
Mhm.
Because the sun, it's like 110 degrees, and I don't see a tree in sight. So when I first got there, I was like, man, I was kind of like miserable. But then I saw the culture, and I think what makes Houston is the people. You got a melting pot of people. The food is great because of that. And then as far as outside, I think Houston perfected the art of outside. We were at a point, real talk, like where you can still be outside the majority of the year in Houston. And I mean, physically, like outside on the patio the majority of the year without
Yeah,
paying Miami pricing. Like
that is true.
you go to Miami, Chicago, and New York, like Houston, although a southern city, like it still gives you the big city amenities. So they got great healthcare, you
Mhm,
got colleges and universities, you got a budding art scene out there, super growing fast out there. And then
mhm.
you talk about the cost of living, which really drew me as well, because I'm like, for what I was paying in Miami, I was able to get something like a loft downtown for half the price. And for me, it was great, but I had to also realize that the rent was going up for local Houstonians too. And
Yeah.
so it was had to find ways to like even plug into my local community. So the community I was staying on in the East End, like I would find like
Okay.
all the little mom and pop stores to go to get my tacos. And your buddy used to hook your boy up too, because on Saturdays and Sundays they used to do the barbacoa, and they used to also
Mhm.
do the pork, the shredded pork. I forgot the name of something with a C, but
Like not carnitas. Is it car Okay. It's
so
fire.
yeah, it was man. Look, I put them things up against anybody in Mexico right now. So and Imma stand on business. I'd have been all over Mexico, but I'm standing on business behind them. But and they made the tortillas by hand. You see them in the
Mhm,
pressing tortillas. So yeah, I had to learn a little Spanish talking to them. So I appreciated that
mhm.
about Houston. But that's not everybody's experience. But I still think it's a dope city. And you got the best of both worlds because now you can go visit when you want to, get up out of there,
I'm
and
always
live your
welcome
life.
at my mama's house, correct. So, I do, like because my job is, like, fully remote, I do go to Houston for, like, a month or 2 months at a time. Like I said, to spend time with my mama, spend time with family, and then just kinda, like I usually go to Houston when I wanna, like, get away from a lot of people too and just kinda, like, slow down a little bit, because when I'm The minute I leave Houston, my life is on go. Go, 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 go. Houston is my like annual, let's slow down for a second. Let's have some family time. Let's, show up for the birthday parties and the random like, oh, let's have a cousins night. Like, let me show up for that stuff. Because as soon as I leave, as soon as I hit Bush Airport, they not seeing me for a while.
Speaking of Bush, it was recently reported as the worst wait times in the nation with this TSA
Really?
shit that was in the nation, in the nation,
That's crazy.
in the
So
nation.
I missed the chaos by like a day. So I was in Houston all of March and I left like on the 20th or something, like March 20th, 21st. It was a Saturday, right? That week leading up to that was chaos. All you saw was long TSA lines, all those things, right? And I was like, it's Terminal E. I fly out of Terminal C. I got clear. I got TSA pre-check. Like, I got silver status on United. Like, I'm good. Like, that don't, like, that don't affect me. That's not my worry. That's not my concern. And yet, I still went to the airport maybe 3 hours before my flight, just in case. And I was right. Terminal C had none of that issue because it was only open to TSA pre-check. The next day, they closed Terminal C. Everybody, regardless of your status, TSA pre-check, you had to go to Terminal E. I was like, thank God. I flew out the day I flew out because I also heard that like LaGuardia had like a plane crash, and so like all of the New York airports had closed down for a second. Some girl who was flying from Atlanta, she was flying into LaGuardia and they had to fly her back to Atlanta. I was like, I would have been so upset, but people gotta get paid. So TSA agents need to get paid. Governments needs to stop playing with people's money. But I'm also not surprised that Bush has terrible wait times because even with the clear line on a normal day is bad. Like, I think I've been in that line for maybe like 10 to 15 minutes with clear. And I'm like, what's the point of me having this if I'm supposed to be in and out? I've seen people go into the normal TSA line and get through quicker than me with clear at Bush. That's how
Yeah,
bad it is.
Bush they need to do a case study on Bush. It's one of the weirdest airports in navigation.
I think it's weird because of United, okay? Like, even though I fly United, okay? But I fly United because every city I've ever lived in, the airport I fly out of has been a United hub, right? But Houston is like the mega hub for United. And United has specific terminals that are only their flights. So I think Terminal C is specifically only a United terminal, right? And so I think Bush is the way it is because probably like 60% of that airport is United flights. And if you're not flying United, you have to fly someone else. And that's only, to my understanding, Terminal E, because they also are like, doing construction. And they've been doing
Yes.
construction at Bush for like the past 2 years. So it's like traffic. There's also the monopoly of the airports. I watched this really good documentary by More Perfect Union that was talking about like how I think it's like the big three airlines have monopoly over airports and stuff like that. And so even if their gates are empty and there's no flights coming in, other airlines can't use their gates. And that is what causes all those backups and stuff. So I think this was going on at Bush.
Yeah, and they throw all the budget airlines wherever you can fit in. So, as a budget traveler, I'll be on Frontier and Spirit like, dang, I gotta walk 3 miles to get here. And it's crazy because I got TSA and clear. So I'm just sitting there like
Mm,
and Houston, you gotta clear, on the other terminals, it's either TSA on the other side and then you gotta walk around. They won't
really?
do TSA on both terminals. You know how it's like two entry points? So only one side will be like the TSA entry point for pre-check and clear. And so if you're so yeah, I go through that one, but I gotta walk all the way back around to get back to the terminal if I'm flying like Spirit or like Frontier. Crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've only ever flown out of United because from like United always has a direct flight for where I'm going. And I don't know, I'm a convenience queen. I will pay $100, $200 more if that means it's going to be an easier flight for me. But I've never flown Frontier, but I have flown Spirit. And I think a lot of people talk shit about Spirit. And I'm like, all these airlines are doing the same. They all have the same business plan as Spirit. You're paying for your bags, you're paying for your seat, you're not paying for water, but you're paying for every other little thing. So I don't understand why people are so like talk so much shit about Spirit because I'm like, it's getting you from point A to point B. But my rule with Spirit is it has to be a direct flight. If it's not a direct flight, I'm not doing it. I'm
See,
not doing it.
You gotta know when to do it because it's the thing now. It's crazy because I've had status with Delta and I
Mhm.
also will get my ass on a Frontier flight in a heartbeat. The
Yep.
thing is though, I have a rule and I tell folks all the time. It's gotta be at least under 3 hours and it's gotta be nonstop and I'm not paying more than $100 one way if I'm flying budget.
Yep.
If it exceeds that, then I might as well get my ass on Delta or one of the big three, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, as long as you do that, you be in shape. Cause people be like, I'm like, yo, they fly Airbus 330. That's the same thing that the major airlines fly.
Yeah. Bring your pack your snacks. Make sure your iPad is downloaded with your movies. I just think people like they're not prepared. Like they don't be preparing before they fly, right? And I'm like, if it's a 3-hour flight, I'm getting there directly. If the big seat at the front is what, $20, Imma pay for the big seat at the front, and all of this is still cheaper than a flight with one of the big 3, then yeah, Imma fly Spirit. But I don't know, my mom is, like, anti-Spirit. She likes Spirit now because, the flight from Houston to Cali, Colombia on Spirit arrives at, like, 4 AM or something, 5 AM into Colombia, so she likes that she arrives earlier versus the United route arrives, like, super late at night. So she's like, "I do give them credit for that." But other than that, for a very long time, she refused, like, refused to fly Spirit. She's like, "Absolutely not." And then she did it, and she's gotten, like, she understands Spirit now. She's like, you have a point. It is giving United. Like United does make me pay for this, this, and that. And I'm like, exactly. Like you're actually paying for everything still. United just packages it prettier for you to not care so much.
United did me dirty though one time because I thought I was gonna finesse them. I got this little book bag. I call it a Spirit Beater. I bought it from Target, and it's basically like the size of a roller bag, but it's just a book bag.
Okay.
So Spirit and Frontier will usually won't bother you if you just have a book bag on. They don't care
Mhm.
what size it is. They just, you know. So I've saved so much money with that bag. But one time I was flying United, but I was flying basic economy. And I didn't
Mm,
know before they issue your boarding pass on basic economy, you got to go to the gate and they will put your bag inside the thing. And if it don't fit, then you got to pay the baggage fees and then get your boarding pass.
that
Bruh.
must be new. When did that happen?
This was like a couple years ago. And so I don't, because you know, you got status with them. So if you ever fly, and the reason
I've
why I don't
always
like
had status with them. I've only had status with them for the past 2 years. Compared to 2025, flew whoever was getting me to the location the cheapest. But it just happened that 2024, a lot of the trips I had to take, United was actually the cheapest flight. United and his partners. So that's why I'm a United girly now. Prior to that, I was like basic economy. I never have been a personal only girl because I'm an overpacker. I'm not gonna hold you. I am an overpacker. My bag is always overweight, and that's also kind of why I wanted status because I get 70 pounds with
okay,
my
okay.
status, which makes a huge difference. 20 pounds because you have to remember, like all of our suitcases are about 10 to 14 pounds empty. So like you're really not even getting your 50 pounds. You're getting 30 pounds. So I needed 70 pounds to make
Who's
sure.
carrying these bags when you're traveling though? Because 70 pounds is crazy.
I carry my own bags. Unless I'm traveling with my boyfriend, I carry my bags. I
I hope you ain't
my
got
bags
I
be
hope the elevator
heavy.
don't break.
My bags be heavy. Every time, like, an Uber driver or something has to put the bag in, I'm like, "It's heavy," and they be thinking I'm playing, and then they be like, "Ooh," and I'm like, "I told you it was heavy. I don't know why you thought I was lying to you." But no, my carry-on be heavy too. My carry-on definitely be heavy. But again, it's just, it's a quick 2 seconds out of an entire day. I can deal with a heavy bag if that means I get all my stuff to where I need it to go.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm like the complete opposite. Usually like when I'm going on a long haul trip, I take a book bag and then a carry on, like a roller, a small roller, and I like it because I can split everything up and then, the thing is though, I never need more than a week's worth of clothes.
Yeah, 'cause you can wash clothes, but mm-mm. I'm a sweaty
Which
girl. I sweat very easily. So no, I'm so serious. Like I sweat. It is insane how much I sweat, and I get hot very, very fast. So my packing strategy is I always need 2 outfits per day, just in case I over sweat. This is like the nitty and gritty of it. If I over sweat, so that if I have dinner plans or something, I can change into that or whatever because I've tried packing less and being like, "Oh, I'll just wash clothes." And then my clothes have gotten ruined by whoever was washing it.
mm.
I didn't have the time to wash clothes because my schedule was like pa 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 pa. So I'm now like with dirty socks on because I didn't have time to wash my, you know what I'm saying? So like I overpack socks, I overpack underwear, and I usually like overpack clothes, but I do have it like organized per day. And then I have maybe like 2 or 3 extra outfits just in case I'm like, I don't feel like wearing a dress today. I actually want to wear pants or ooh, because I'm very moody. The vibes when you getting dressed sometimes you be like, I don't feel like doing that. But you're a guy, so you probably don't have all the you're like,
I'm glad, you know, because my sisters, I got 2 of them, and we used to have to go school shopping. I'd be like, "Okay, grandma, like, I got all my stuff, 5 pants, 5 shirts, I'm ready to go." My sister's in there just swipe, looking through clothes aisle. I'm like, "Bruh, can we go? Please, somebody help me."
no.
So, yeah, the ladies, y'all come dressed to impress. One thing I love about Black women who travel, y'all gonna bring that 100-pound suitcase, but y'all gonna have a fit for every occasion.
Okay. Yes, the fits be fitting. And I don't know. I feel like clothes is such a great, like if you look good, you feel good, you do good, and your trip just feels better. 'Cause, yeah, I just feel like if you don't feel like your best, you're not necessarily enjoying the trip as much because now you're self-conscious about certain things and you're just like, "Ugh, my hair looks crazy. And, ugh, blah, 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 blah." Yeah, I'm a pack what I need to pack to make sure that I have no problems on the trip. I also think I became an overpacker after going to Cuba because when you go to Cuba, you can't, like usually if you forget something, you could just go to the grocery store or whatever to get you can't do that in Cuba. You have to go with everything. And I definitely forgot stuff when I went to Cuba. And, climate change is real. So we went, it was going into 2024. So like December 27th to like January 4th, 2023, going into 2024, right? The New Year's. And it was supposed to be hot and sunny and warm. And we got there. It was cold. It was rainy. It was cold. When I tell you it was cold every single day. And I had one jacket, which was the jacket I wore to the airport because, the flight be cold. So it was a jean jacket. Everything else I packed was like dresses and like, flowy and airy. I was freezing. And so after that day, I was like, I'm never going to be unprepared for whatever weather if the weather decides to be different or anything like that. And so yeah, I think going to Cuba made me an overpacker because I was struggling and I couldn't fix the problem while I was in Cuba.
You know what? That makes sense. I mean, Cuba is one of those places where you either got it or you don't, or you want to get very, very creative because the simplest things like getting access to Wi-Fi, or
Mhm.
you can't use your debit card or credit card anywhere, just cash on. I ran out of money in Cuba.
Really? Damn.
Ran out of money.
How'd you manage that then if you ran out of money? And what day how long was the trip? What day did you run out of money? How did you I have questions.
Okay, I'll give you the Reader's Digest. So I was there for probably about 7 days solo. I'm staying in the
Okay.
Casa Particular. And for
Mhm.
those who know the Casa Particular, when you go to Colombia, I mean not Colombia, when you go to Cuba, Cuba, we're not allowed to stay in the hotels as Americans. So we had to go stay with like a host family who had like a property and may have your own little unit. That's what I had. So the host family used to make breakfast for me in the morning and stuff like that. And I had my own room downstairs. Everything was going good. Well, last night, I guess I'm there full night. I meet some people at a bar, no, at a restaurant that I had a couple of drinks at. Had dinner, had a couple of drinks, and get ready to head home, go turn it in. They were like, "Hey, friend, like you want us to take you out on the town? We can go kick it. We'll show you like some good stuff to do." Like that.
Mhm.
So I go home and they're like, "Well, just meet us back here because I don't have Wi-Fi." She's like, "Just
Mhm.
meet us back here like 12 and then we'll go out once we get off of work." I'm like, "All right, cool." So I'm walking back home like, man, these people trying to set me up. I ain't about to go out there with them. So I get home like, you know what? It's my birthday. I haven't done anything as far as going out like that.
Mhm.
What's the worst that can happen? I'm gonna go. So I meet them back up there. We go out and we end up staying out. The sun was coming up.
Okay, good time.
Yes. So I realized I'm like, oh shoot, like I'm running out of money. So I tell my friend that we had just met, I'm like, he was like, cool, I'll just call the taxi home and I'll have him drop you off at your place on the way to mine. Since you don't
Mm.
have any money, friend. I'm like, all right, appreciate it, bro. So I get dropped off, I get back to the room, I realize like, hey, like the money I thought I had was a different currency. Because I had like some extra pesos from like Mexico. So I'm thinking like these is Cuban pesos the whole time. Turns out it's like, I don't have anything. Oh, and it's a Sunday. So I call my sister. I'm like, hey, can you Western Union me some money to Cuba? She's like, yeah, I got you. Where you need to send it to? She sends it. I go to pick it up. Western Union is closed because it's Sunday. So now I don't have a way to get to the airport to get out of there. So I'm letting the host family know what's going on. They're like, hey, like we're gonna give you $100 when you get back. We stress you like when you get back to the States, just
Mhm.
wire the money back. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Some people took care of me. I sent that money back, and I'm always thankful for them.
Yeah, yeah, 'cause your ass would have been stuck in Cuba. My gosh, no, that was my fear when I went to Cuba. I was like, "Dang, Imma run out of money," but I had got hired as a videographer for another influencer, so it was her trip with, a group trip company, so they covered for everything. I think I maybe spent, like, $100 out of my money, but I definitely went with, like, 500, and then somebody was like, "Oh, exchange your money like $20 at a time, $30 at a time, because you probably won't even end up spending all of it." And they were like, if you get Cuban dollars, that money is monopoly money once you leave this country. So like be very intentional and wise about how you're converting. But I would have been terrified for that. Cause I heard a lot of stories like that. Like a lot of stories of people running out. And I was like, can't be me. I also didn't have internet the entire time I was there. Like I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, you get a eSIM or this and that and the third," and I was like, "I'll be fine. Like I can disconnect from the world for a few days." So I did, but I was just like, "This is a very interesting situation we're in right now." And so yeah, I think I had forgot to pack some like hair product or something, and I was like, "There ain't no way for me to get this anywhere." There's
Mm-mm.
no way for me to get any of these things. Yeah, it was very interesting. Even with like, cause they have a food shortage, so even like the eating, I was like, "Whew, I don't eat pork." So fortunately, there were like non-pork options. Yeah, but like one of the girls, she didn't eat like the non-pork option was like chicken or it was like seafood or something, right? And she didn't eat seafood. So I was like, she was struggling to eat.
Rice and beans. No les arroz. That's what you about to be on, baby. Cause
I was
I don't know
like
what you about to do over there.
and, like, I had packed my own snacks, so I made like, just in case there was nothing else for me to eat, but I was just like, "Ooh, if I was vegetarian, that would've been hard." Like, Cuba, you have to be a well-prepared traveler to go to Cuba and enjoy yourself, because if you are unprepared, you will feel that. Like,
That's a fact. I think it's interesting. One of the things that surprises me the most when I travel is how strong Black culture has been preserved. And when I tell you Black folks will do anything over a pot of beans and some rice, look,
throw down.
come on now. Like you go there. I remember just being in Cuba and it was like, oh, like beans and rice. Shoot, like my daddy just cooked a pot of beans and put some rice on, so like, I can eat this all day. I think when we look at it, it's like also just a testament to how strong our culture has been held on, no matter where folks that came across in the transatlantic slave trade got off, right? They still kept these cultures. And so when you look at that, right, we talk about like Black Latin travel. What inspired you to start like telling these different types of stories within the diaspora?
Yeah, so Black Latin history really came about because I got tired of explaining my existence, right? Like I got tired of explaining the intersectionalities of my identity, and people just really not grasping the difference of like race, nationality, and ethnicity, and that, Blackness exists in Latin America. It looks very similar to how we understand Blackness in the US. And so I was working at a news organization at that time, and I was working on a story looking at how anti-Blackness has, developed throughout Latin America and how it's really embedded in the culture of Latin America. And there was a section where we were talking about like Latino as a race, right? And why it's not a race, and, how race is a social construct and all these other types of things. And I was just getting so much pushback, like so much pushback from the editorial leads and the like higher ups and stuff like that. And I kept being told I was too close to the story. And it felt like they were telling me I was too close to the story as a way to like negate the facts and like what I was presenting and the argument that I was trying to make with the piece. And I just got really, really frustrated. And I had been at that company for maybe like, I think 3 or 4 years by that point. And I was just like, I've gotten too comfortable here. Like, it's time for me to like do my own thing. And I've always been like a big, big, big person who's like, you need to own your own ideas, your own content, your own IP, right? Like, it's great to work for companies, but like if you have creative ideas, you can usually create it yourself. And I hadn't created anything that was mine since like college. And so I was like, okay, I need to get out of here. Let me start applying for like grants and finding, these things. Maybe I should enter the travel influencer world. Like I'm trying to think of ways to just get out of that situation. And I found this Snapchat grant that it was like the 523 Snapchat grant, and they were trying to like recruit creators to create on Snapchat, and it came with like 100K grant, right? So I'm like, ooh, I'm applying for this. At the time, like I said, I hadn't created anything that was my own. So I'm trying to like explain the concepts and the ideas and who I am as a creator. And I was like, fuck, I don't have any proof of concept. Like I have no proof that any of this shit is going to hit, even though I know it is, but like I have nothing that is going to show that. And so I applied for the grant, really not thinking anything of it. I didn't win either, but I had these 4 videos that I had created it for it. And Hispanic Heritage Month was coming up, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just like put these on TikTok. Mind you, this is 2022. I still didn't have a TikTok at that time. TikTok blew up in 2020. Everybody on TikTok, everybody do. Even though I am a social media influencer or whatever, like I low-key am very anti-social media. Like I hate consuming too much stuff on social media because I think it just like fucks up your creativity, right? And now you're like trying to be like everybody else and all these types of stuff. And I think TikTok also promotes that, right? Like the copying of other people's stuff. So I was very like, I'm good. But my best friend, she was like, Eileen, you do video, like you'd be so good at this, like just and then working at the news organization, I had a lot of insight from the back end of like how audiences interact with like news content and history content and all these things. And so I was like, maybe I'll just put these out once a week, just put them out, see what sticks. If it doesn't stick, who gives a fuck? Like I'm proud of the work. So let me just, showcase it because this is the nerdy stuff that I like talking about. And so I created Black Latin History on TikTok, really didn't think of the name or anything. I was just like, oh, this is going to be a placeholder name until I think of something that is just, a little more judge, a little more. And I was like, I don't want to not create the page because I don't have a name right now. So I was like, Black Latin History, cool, got the handle. And then I just posted a video once a week. And then at the time, I was like, oh, let me just post them on my personal Instagram as well. And the first video got like 10K views. And I was like, oh, okay.
Cooking.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, we're off to a good start. On Instagram, it's not hitting the same way it is on TikTok, but I'm like, okay. On Instagram, I had about 1,800 followers at the time. I call them my OG 1,800. Those are people I went to school with, college, works with, like people I know, right? TikTok, I'm starting from ground zero. And so I post once a week, da-da-da. The next week, I post another video. The TikTok is growing. That one also gets 10K views. It's hitting on Instagram. Like, they're growing. By the 4th week, I posted a video about how Afro-Colombian women use braids as escape maps during the colonial period.
Palenque. Let's talk about it. What's up?
And it blew up. When I say that shit went super viral, like 4 million views on TikTok. It took me from 0 followers to about 16,000 followers or 30,000 followers actually within like that one video. And it reached 4 million views within like 3 days on TikTok. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? On Instagram, I posted it. It didn't pop off on Instagram. It actually performs relatively low on Instagram until 30 days later. 30 days later, it blew up. And when I say it also reached 4 million views on Instagram. Viola Davis posted it. It got 4 million views on. Like the video, anybody who posted that video on their page was getting 1 million views plus. I went from 1,800 followers to 16,000 followers because of that video. So I said, y'all like this format. Y'all like this connection of Black womanhood, of Blackness in Latin America, and tying that into how we view Blackness in the US as well. I almost didn't post that video because I hated the way I edited it, but I still posted it because I was like, I told myself I'm posting once a week just to just get these videos out. And I just thought it was a cool, like, historical fact. I was like, oh, this is so fascinating. Black women use braids as escape maps, hit, rice. They did Bantu knots to signify heels and like all these other types of things, right? I'm just thinking this is really interesting. And the comment section was really beautiful because it was other Black women who are part of the diaspora being like, and this is why it's not just braids. This is why it's not just hair. This is why. And it became this conversation about cultural appropriation and the significance of our hair and why our hair and wearing it natural is resistance and all these things. And I was like, I don't know, it didn't occur to me that that would be the conversation that happened out of this, right? Because I'm a history nerd. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. But it became this really deep conversation of like Black womanhood and our hair. And I was like, okay, like I love talking about history. And I love that y'all are receptive to this. But like I said, I hated the way I edited it because I didn't have original footage. And my goal has always been to create my own documentaries. And so I was like, how can I do this format, get my own original footage, and really like lean into the documentary side of what I've always wanted to do and the reason why I majored in journalism and did video production, all those things. Like, how can I get closer to like making documentaries? And so I was like, I can travel. I was like, I can travel these places and go on a tour, on a Black history tour, and talk about the history and da da da, right? And the goal was always just to get to Colombia. I was like, I just need to figure out a way to get funding to get to Colombia, to talk about Blackness in Colombia. But I had there was like a Howard alum grant that was like $1,000, 1867, because that's when Howard was founded. So it was $1,867, right? And I had saw the grant through like some alum portal or whatever, and I saw it, and then I didn't apply to it because I forgot. But then they extended the deadline, and I understand that when anybody listening, if you are thinking about applying to a grant or anything, and you see that they extend the deadline, that means they didn't get enough applications.
Mm,
Enough applications, or the applications that they got weren't strong enough, right? And so they are trying to get more applications. And so I saw that they had extended the application. So I was like, you know what? Let me just apply to this. Like, who knows what will come of it? And I won it, right? Almost $2,000. So I was like,
almost
okay.
2K. We're gonna take that 2K. Yeah, that's
So I'm like, where can I go that I can, do this new format that I'm trying to do? Where can I travel to that has Black history, that cheap flight, cheap hotel, like, I'm gonna record on my phone. Like, how can I do this? And then Puerto Rico. I thought of Puerto Rico. I went to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was my first solo trip for my 24th birthday, right? And at this time, this was 2022. I'm really bad at mental math. Let's say I'm like 26, 27 at this time, right? So I'm like, oh, I can go to Puerto Rico. And I lived in DC at the time. So a flight to Puerto Rico, Spirit was $200. I was like,
monster.
I was like, I could find a cheap Airbnb for like a Thursday to a Sunday or Monday. I paid $300. I was like, I'm gonna need a microphone, right? And I'm gonna need some type of tripod to hold my phone. And DJI had just came out with their mics at that time, so that was probably the most expensive part, was that damn mic, which was like $350. You know what I'm saying? It's $350. And then I got like a phone gimbal for my phone off of DJI, which was like, I think $100. So I'm like, okay, we working, we send something up. And I had learned about bomba just by like researching it. And so I was trying to find like, okay, where can I take a bomba class, like that? And the lady I wanted to take a class with, I reached out to her on Instagram, and she was like, there's actually a big festival happening this weekend, so I'm not hosting any classes. And I was like, a festival? That ain't come up in my research. Like, what? I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm gonna have to like change my, go a different day because a festival is happening, which was Sunset Festival. And I ended up still going during that time, which was like a blessing in disguise. But like, I think 2 days before I was supposed to land, she hits me up like, hey, I just got a private booking of a group of women and they said that you can join the class, like if you want to come. I said, thank you. Thank God that I got
How you
this.
doing?
Yeah, thank God. And so I get there, I fly out like on a Friday after work. I land at I think like 3 a.m. or something like that. I check into some random little Airbnb at the back of somebody's house. And by 8 a.m. the next morning, I'm up heading to Loíza to take this bomba class with Sheila Osorio, which she not like at that time I didn't know she was like this big, like she is the person you want to take a class with, right? She is known as the bomba queen, the preserver of bomba. And it's on the beach and it's at where like the river and the beach meet. And it's like a very ancestral place. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm doing this. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. Okay. I was just like, just get your clips, however you need to get your clips. She didn't know I was doing a video. So she probably thought I was just like some girl who makes TikToks and was more focused on capturing footage than actually like learning how to dance, I'm like getting all my clips and da da da. And because it was a festival and bomba is like the traditional dance of of Puerto Rico, the festival, there was a lot of just like pop-ups of bomba dancing. So I was able to get bomba in the street and how the community dances bomba and how it pops up and all this type of stuff. And I made a video of that. And that was my first video of like what Black Latin history is now, is traveling to these destinations, immersing myself in the living history through a tour, through, maybe a private tour or whatever. I usually do public tours because I want my audience to be able to book the exact same tour I went on to. But merging basically like Afro tourism with history. And that is kind of how I entered the travel space, because I was like, it's oddly easier to get brand partnerships than it is to get grant funding. And so
Mm.
yeah, so I started creating this as a creative way to get funding to make a documentary about Afro-Colombians. So that was January 2023. May 2023, I attended my first travel conference, which was WITS, which was Women in Travel Summit, and that was also in Puerto Rico. So I was back, I was going back to Puerto Rico. That is where I learned like so many ins and outs and how other people in the travel industry like operate and work. And that's how I landed my first two paid brand partnerships, was by going to that conference and meeting with brands. And those two partnerships were able to fund me doing a 6-week solo trip to Colombia and Brazil to do my content,
Mm.
start the documentary aspect of it. And so a lot of the content that people know me for and see me for is because of that 6-week solo trip. And so that was like a really long-winded way of saying like the journey, but it honestly started with someone who's not Black, who's not Afro-Latino, telling me that there wasn't an audience for this content, that I was too close to the story so that like it can be factually correct. And me being like, man, fuck y'all, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm really good at this. And there's nothing out there that approaches this subject matter from this lens in this way. And so I just took a bet on myself and like got creative and $2,000 here, a few $1,000s here, some money here. That my family's in Colombia, so I'm like, well, I'm staying at my grandma's house for 3 weeks so that I can, save
Your
money
boy
here.
laugh.
Yeah. So, and so yeah, I just got really creative and I started reaching out to like smaller organizations in Colombia, like, hey, could I do this in exchange for a video? Because I already knew I was going to be doing a video anyways. So I was like, if I don't have to pay you 30, 40, 50, $100, like let's exchange. And that is also good for me as I'm building out my portfolio and case studies and all these types of things. So yeah, I kind of like forgot the question because I was just chatting, but I think that answers it.
That's a hell of a story. It's just a dollar and a dream. Like you really started off with like a tripod and an iPhone. Like, let's get it. And to really just really just bet on yourself. I think a lot of times we get in our heads and we're in our own way, where it's
Yeah.
like, hey, like you got you got the blue magic,
Yeah.
you just got to
Gotta do it.
put it out there on the market,
Yeah.
and you had it all the time, and you believed in yourself, and you bet on yourself, and I just like that's so inspiring to hear that because now you fast forward to not only did you put in the work, but it led to a smaller opportunity that led to another opportunity that started to compound, and then we
Yeah.
get here and it's like, you got some fans out there in Brazil. I'm like, who is this?
That always trips honestly, it always trips me out, right? Because I also started as a faceless page, so you would never see me in my content, and I started that way because I was worried about my 9 to 5 finding out that I was doing my own thing, but after a while, I was just like, "Man, fuck, like, I don't give a fuck, like, this is mine, and if y'all wanna fire me for doing my own thing, especially in this climate, like, okay, whatever, but like this is mine. I'm really proud of it. And I understand that me being visible in my own content also helps that relatability factor and helps people see themselves in my shoes and in the content. And yeah, like I tell people all the time, I don't come from like a rich family or anything like that. People hear, "Oh, you went to Howard," and think you like come from money or something. And I'm like, I come from a single parent household. You know what I'm saying? Like my father was in prison for 11 years. Like I've worked my ass off to get to this position by betting on myself, but also because I've had a really good support system who also bet on me and my creativity. And we're like, Eileen, like focus on, like, you're here to do a specific thing, focus on that because you will get distracted and you will, all these things. Like when I first moved to New York straight out of college, I had picked up another job as a concierge at a hotel, right? Because, things in New York is expensive. So
It's
I'm
fuck.
like, I'm an intern, I'm not making money. No, I'm not making that much money. So I'm just like, okay, let me pick up another job. I worked that job for 2 days because my mother was like, she was like, Eileen, that's not what you're there to do. She was like, you went there to work for a media company. And she was just like, you're worried about how the money's gonna work and how it's gonna come and da da da. And you're gonna be so tired from putting your energy into that concierge job that you're not gonna be able to take the opportunity when it comes. And I was just like,
Mm,
Mommy, da, da, da. And she was like, Eileen, we've always figured it out. We'll figure it out. Like, she was like, because if you're going to be a concierge at a hotel, you can just move back home. Like, that's not what we're, you know what I'm saying? She's like, that's not what we're here to do. I worked that job for 2 days. And then by I think the following week, I had got the job offer as a production assistant for Complex, right? So my internship became like a full-time role, well, a full-time contractor, freelancer role. And so she had a point, like sometimes you have to bet on yourself and you have to bet on the vision and what you want to do because it's gonna work out. Like if you bet on yourself and you put it in, you put in the work, it's gonna work out twice over, 3 times over, right? The first time I went to Brazil, I thought it was the only time I was ever gonna be able to go. Like, I was like, I'm never gonna be able to, like, when am I gonna have the opportunity to come to Brazil again? And literally 6 months after that, I was back to Brazil for Carnival, fully paid, all expenses paid, covering the, you know what I'm saying, with the brand. And again, as a videographer for another influencer, a year and a half later, I'm back to Brazil, all expenses paid, speaking at a conference for Black travelers. That would have never happened had I not bet on myself, had I not been like, the money gonna come. Like, but this is about community, this is about impact, this is about the story. The money is going to come.
I read somewhere that there's something that your mom used to say to you, "Tanga Fe." What does that mean?
Have faith, have faith. She don't play. Like my mother has always said, tenga fe en mi Diosito. Have faith, in God. I try not to talk too much about God because I know people are very weird about religion and stuff, and I don't ever want to come off as super preachy, but like I have so much faith, and I truly believe that like my story, my journey has been by faith, not by sight, and just being ready so that when God brings that opportunity, I have been ready, right? Because the worst thing is just praying to God and asking God for the opportunity and you didn't do none of the work. You have none of the proof, nothing to show to be prepared for that opportunity, right? Like with Black Travel Summit, there was a pitch competition to pitch a show, right? To like BET Plus. We found that opened up maybe 2 weeks before the pitch competition happened. I found out maybe 3 days before that I got selected for it, right? I had to make a pitch deck. I had to prepare my presentation. I had to do all these things, but I was ready. I didn't know the opportunity was going to come, but I was ready. I knew in the back end that this was eventually going to happen. So I had a pitch deck ready. I had my sizzle reel ready. I had my talking points ready. I da 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 da. And just doing that also prepares you better because you're like, okay, this is what other people said. Maybe I want to rephrase how I pitch it because we're all kind of saying the same thing. Or this is what, these are the type of questions I got. Oh, maybe I didn't get that many questions. That means my message is very clear. People understand the vision. They know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you have to move the way you want to move. Like, my business and my content, I move it as a documentary. I move it as a independent newsroom, right? I don't have the independent newsroom money or funding or access, but I move that way because when the opportunity comes and the funding comes, I'm already ready. I just need to insert, oh, thank you for this money and let me pay for this. Oh, da da da. You know what I'm saying? So you have to, even if you're not trying to like do what I do, but you want to be a creator, you have to act like you already have 1 million followers. You have to post like you are 1 million followers. Your quality of content should already be up to you having 1 million followers. You get what I'm saying? Because you could go back 3 years and you'd be like, oh, she was on this. Like, I could see the growth. I see the growth. My voiceovers when I first started, oh, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to start from somewhere because you don't get
Mhm.
better doing it.
The queen of quality, they say, right?
The queen of quality content, honey.
Let's get it. Let's get it. I love it, Eileen. I think one of the biggest things that I can see is that, when you look at people's progression, one thing I will say is this. You have done an amazing job at still sticking true to what you set out to do from day one till now.
Thank you.
And that is big because we in these spaces we gotta have real conversation because I always feel like this no matter where we go on this earth, like there's a unique story in how black people got there and what their story is, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
in Latin America, that has always constantly been trying to be erased.
Mm-hmm.
And with you still sticking true to telling these stories, like, yeah, we was happy about Bad Bunny coming to the Super Bowl. Bad Bunny, my dog,
I love that
Gorita,
bunny.
love my dog to death, but you had to post you posted some content around one about, his ethnicity and his race and what did that look like.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also talked about some of the hidden gems and undertones that were in his actual. So
Mm-hmm.
can you share a little bit about what went into creating that content and what was some of the feedback you got from doing that?
So I always say that like one of the core elements of the content I do is decolonization work, right? I am, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm presenting a different understanding and different reality for a lot of mestizo and white Latinos of what La Nidad looks like for the rest of us, right? And with the Bad Bunny is not black, because he's not. With that one, it was I already knew I was gonna get a lot of hate comments in that one because I'm challenging the idea and the common understanding of how race works in Latin America. And I'm challenging anti-blackness, right? And it's just funny because you can tell that people, again, the internet is not the place for critical analysis anymore because you can tell that a lot of people feel personally attacked by that video. And I'm like, you feel personally attacked because you have not done the work to unpack and relearn the things that you grew up understanding. It's incorrect, right? Anti-blackness is deeply embedded in Latin American identity. It's deeply embedded in these countries, like becoming countries in nation building, right? And so with Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico specifically, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without being like too harsh. But with Bad Bunny and Puerto Rican specifically, I kept seeing people be like, oh, is Bad Bunny black? Because he has curly hair and all these other types of things. And I'm like, if you think that having curly hair is the one element that makes someone black, be fucking for real. And it was just really frustrating, especially because we know Bad Bunny has also gotten surgery for his face to look the way it looks now. Because when he first came out, when he was doing trap music, he ain't look like that. You know what I'm saying? He ain't look like that in 2018, 2017. He looked very white. He's been mistaken for Adam Sandler. That's enough, right? To show that it's not being racialized as Black. And what frustrates me, especially within Latin America and US Latinos, is that for them, Blackness is this moving post, right? It's this, it's not about how people racialize you. It's about your ancestry. And I am very big on being Afro-descended is not the same thing as being Black. Because you can be Afro-descended and not move through society as Black, right? And then people will be like, oh, well, there's color. You're talking about colorism now because, like, you know, I'm super pale, but like I'm 50% Black, da 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 da. Baby girl, I understand that. But you are not being racialized. You get to pick and choose when you want to move in and out of your Blackness. We do not. You know what I'm saying? We aren't being racialized as anything other than Black. Now, ethnically, we may be ethnically ambiguous, as some people want to say, but no one's confusing us as anything other than Black. And so that is
Hold on,
that.
real quick, Eileen.
Yes.
I wanna say this, and I pause just right there because I think a prime example of what you're talking about is Sinners.
Yes.
Old
And
girl in
very
Sinners, right? So she's half Black, but she's white passing. So therefore, she can still pick and choose when she wants to participate with the Black folks, or if
correct.
she wants to go be with the white folks, right?
Correct. And that's the thing also with like the term white passing, right? Because a lot of white Latinos will be like, well, I'm a white passing Latino, da da da. And I'm like, white passing was literally a systemic issue, right? Black people who were white passing had to completely distance themselves from their Black family because if they were found out to be Black, there would be a very violent consequence to it. You being a white person who just happens to be from Latin America has no violent consequences. You are literally living and existing through society with a white privilege, and you don't want to accept that because you probably have dealt with some type of discrimination when people find out that you're Latino. That is different, right? That is not white passing. You are a white person. Racially, you are white. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
there are no consequences from being like,
Yeah,
yeah, looking like
ethnically
that.
you
Yeah.
are something else, but racially you are white. If you didn't tell me you were Puerto Rican, I wouldn't think you were anything but a white woman. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I also have qualms with white Latinos saying they're white passing because I'm like that you're taking away the very violent act of being a white passing person. You know what I'm saying? You're not having to distance yourself from your reality and your worlds and what you grew up with in fear of being found out as something as other. And so that's on that. But with Bad Bunny, it was just very one, he's never said he's Black. Two, okay, maybe he has 20% African ancestry, but that doesn't make him Black, right? Like, and a lot of the comments and the arguments were like, well, race is a social construct. We have so much, like, so many other bigger things to be worried about. And I'm like, yes, race is a social construct. It dictates how we get to move and exist in the world based on how other people perceive us. That's exactly what it is. That's the exact point. What are you like? You know what I'm saying? And for some of us, it has very violent realities. It has dictated everything that we have been able to do in the world, right? We don't have the same opportunities as other people who get to pick and choose and go in and out of whether they want to be Black or not that day. And so that's why I made that video, because there's just this really big myth that all Latinos are a mixture of Spaniard, Indigenous, and African. And it's like, my entire lineage is African. I don't have no Spaniard blood in me. My ancestors were just dropped off at the Cartagena slave port in Colombia. You know what I'm saying? Not in the US. And so that's really what that video was about, dismantling this three-race mixture and this myth of mestizaje and that Latin Americans are unique in their mixture, right? Because every society has mixed people. That doesn't make you unique or anything like that. Latin America just approached racism differently by promoting mixed mestizaje, which is mixing, right? But it was literally to eliminate phenotypically Black people. That was the point of mestizaje. That was the only reason why they promoted it, because they didn't want Black people to be visible anymore. So yeah. And then with the other one talking about the history of Puerto Rico, and that's why I said, like, I love history. I love history. I also love Bad Bunny. I love Puerto Ricans, you know. I love it all. But I think, and exist in two worlds, right? I know multiple things can be true at the same time. And I think a lot of people they can't fathom how multiple things can be true at the same time. But Puerto Rico, that was actually a condensed version of a longer version video that I did for AJ Plus maybe like 2 years ago. And that video I did came about during Puerto Rico was having a lot of blackouts. They were having a lot of issues with their electricity grid.
Yes.
Had at a concert was like fuck Luma or whatever, which Luma is their like electricity company. And I was like, I wonder if there's like some, I was researching pitches for that team, and I was like, I wonder if there's a story about Puerto Rico that could be like that I could talk about Bad Bunny. Like, how can I like I would love to do something that's not so serious, right? Because like with AJ Plus, I talk about a lot about like geopolitics and genocide and just some really like dark things. And so I was like, what is something that's like cultural that can be a little lighthearted, that could be a little more interesting? And I went down that rabbit hole, and I learned about Las Carpetas and like Puerto Rican independence movements, and how COINTELPRO, the same organization that dismantled the Black Panthers, played a role in dismantling Puerto Rican's independence movements, and why Puerto Rico is and not a state, and it's not an independent country. It's a commonwealth and a colony of the US. And just, and why Puerto Ricans call themselves Boricuas. And, when I think of Puerto Ricans, I automatically think of their flag, because every Puerto Rican I know has their flag somewhere, in the clothes and a bracelet and something, right? And so I was like, what are like what makes up Puerto Rican identity? And that's kind of how that video came about, was just like discovering all these interesting facts about Puerto Rico and like how sinister the US is. And I had realized for a while that Bad Bunny had been using the original Puerto Rican flag, which that uses light blue instead of the dark blue color that most of us know from it. And I had a feeling he was going to use it for his Super Bowl. And so I kind of had the video already edited, because I'm a producer, like I do news producing. So I'm just like, I know how to be prepared for big cultural moments. And so, yeah, I was just like, oh, he used it. Let me put this together real quick, and then lead people to the fuller video where we really go into depth. But I think that was just like a cool way to bring a pop culture moment that everyone's talking about, and add some historical context to it, and just be like, hey, you probably didn't know this, but like, Puerto Rico been through some stuff, and it's really interesting, and it deserves their history also being shown. So that wasn't necessarily Black Latin history, but it was a cool way to talk about pop culture, but also like the history of Puerto Rico, because I've used that format a few times of like taking a pop culture moment that people are talking about and using that to be able to talk about like dictatorships and things like that. Because you got to meet your audience where they're at, right? So if they're talking about Janae and Kenny from Love Island, and why, Kenny being an anti-Black Dominican, like, oh, I have a video about this. Let's use Love Island to talk about the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo and the DR. You know what I'm saying? And so,
I know Black Poppy.
yeah, I know Black, right? And so,
I know
like,
Black.
that format has been fun, and every time I've done the pop culture moment to talk about something deeper, it's performed really well. So I'm realizing that audiences also really like getting that historical context to like the discourse that is happening.
That's facts. It's beautiful because we in these times that we are living in, we definitely need people to understand what's going on these days. But I do know you got the Afro-Medellin tour coming up. We
I
going down
do.
to Colombia. Medellin is like one of my favorite cities in the world. It is just something just majestic about that place, especially like I'll tell you this, when I get off the plane and when I take that Uber into town and you just cut through
Mhm.
the tunnel, and then
Mhm.
boom, like you just see this like jungle and the city just sitting in the mountains. It's just like, damn, I love this place.
I love
We know you
Medellin.
got a trip there. What you got going on with this trip to Medellin? Yeah.
It's my second year and final year doing so Afro-Medellin is my group trip where I take 15 Black travelers to Medellin and immerse them into Afro-Colombian culture from El Pacifico. At the beginning of this, I talked about how my family's from the Pacific Coast. And so Medellin, a lot of people don't associate Medellin with Afro-Colombian culture, but Medellin has a large population from El Choco, which is also from the Pacific coast. It's like Northern Pacific, Buenaventura is Southern Pacific. And so the first time I went to Medellin, which was part of that 6-week solo trip, I went for 3 days thinking out of all the destinations I went into Colombia, Medellin was the one I had the least expectations to find Black culture in. I was just going more as B-roll content to talk about like, oh, here's things to do in Medellin. And Origin and Culture, which is the organization I work with, they curated the most beautiful and immersive trip that it became the highlight of that 6-week solo journey. And I was just like, I didn't know Medellin had it like this. Like, wow, y'all. And I'm not from the Choco, so I was also learning a lot of new Afro-Colombian culture, like chirimia, which a lot of people correlate to New Orleans second line music, right? And so Afro-Medellin is basically an extension of that trip, the first trip I took, and making sure that Black travelers get to see a side of Medellin that no one ever sees, that it is never promoted, right? In their tourism marketing. Like if you go to Medellin Travel, the Instagram page, you won't see a single Black person on it for like the past 2 years. You won't see any
That's crazy work.
you won't see any of our events promoted, nothing, right? And so my trip is a way to just make sure that like our tourism dollars are being poured back into the Afro-Colombian community and making sure you have a good Black ass time in one of the most beautiful cities in the world, right? Like you said, you leave the airport, you go through that tunnel, and then it's opened up to this like amazing viewpoint. You're just like, holy shit. And then the entire trip, you're like within the mountains and you see the mountains. And it's called the City of Eternal Spring for a reason. And so Medellin is one of my favorite places, but I have always wanted to take people to El Pacifico, like to Buenaventura or Bahia Solano to see like whale watching and the released turtles and all those types of things. But that is just logistically a feat, and that's also for a very specific type of traveler. And so I think Medellin is like a really nice entry point to Colombia, into all the beauty that is Colombia, and it makes people fall in love. And so on the trip we do like a Afro Comuna 13 street food and art tour where you learn how like hip hop helps transform this community, right? And you get to try traditional Afro-Colombian food. We have a live band dance class, so you learn traditional Afro-Colombian dances. There's the Black Joy Parade, which is kind of like the highlight for a lot of people, where you get to turn up and bundear with the community. Again, live music. And so a big part of this trip is live music, art, and history. And so I always tell people, if you love my content, if you've ever wanted to like actually experience the things that you see on my page live, this is the trip to do that. I'm really excited. The inaugural trip sold out last year, all Black women from different parts of the world. And so it was a really beautiful trip, and it made me so emotional. And I'm not a crier, and I'm like crying by the farewell dinner. I'm crying because I'm like, holy shit, like I just did this. You know what I'm saying? Like this was an idea. And it's an extension of Black Latin history, but I never in a million years thought that like making Instagram videos would lead to, a sold out Afro-Medellin trip where we poured $30,000 back into Afro-Colombian owned businesses. Like it would have never fathomed to me that would have led to that. And so my first group was amazing, beautiful, lovely, and I just saw the impact on both ends with the Afro-Colombian community and with the travelers. And so I was like, okay, maybe we should do it again. Maybe we should do it again. But it was originally supposed to just be a one-time thing, and then I got convinced to do it again, which I'm really excited to host again. We're halfway sold out, but I forgot how much of a logistic beast it is and how taxing it is. And there's just other things I want to do. And so that's why this is the last year for group trips, because I have a million and one other ideas that I need to pour some time and energy into. I feel like my mission has kind of been completed with Afro-Medellin, and I have so many blog posts and content and ideas, and I was like, y'all can go to Medellin on your own time too. This is curated, so if you want to come with me, it's curated, so you know exactly where you're going, where you're doing, and all those things. But it's also like, here's some supporting blog posts and content pieces, so that if you're just like, Eileen, I don't want to travel with a group, I wanna do my own thing at my own time. Here you go. Here's my favorite things to do. Here's my favorite restaurants. Here's how you can book this. Here's the hotel. So yeah, I feel like my mission has been completed with the group trips, and I've also seen how, um, Origin and Culture has grown since for the, like, what we've been working together for 3 years now, how Origin and Culture has grown and how people are reaching out to them to host group trips. Like, the economic stimulation has happened and is happening and is gonna continue to happen even if I remove myself from it, and like I always said, it's always been about the community, it's not about me, and so I'm happy that I can remove myself from it and it still sustain itself. I think that's always been the goal.
That's dope as hell. That's dope as hell. You can create something that's still sustainable.
Yeah.
And also too, you got, I was just looking at your blog for Brazil because I'm over there writing down stuff and it's super thorough. It's super thorough. It's on the website. And yeah, I'm just like, yeah, she got everything on here. Now I know, you know, I took my ass up that mountain in Guatemala, so I'm probably done with adventure travel for a little bit. So I'm gonna leave that. I'm not gonna do the hike, but
I don't think I ended up not actually being able to do the hike because it rained. It rained and it was my last day in Brazil and I was like, I knew I should have booked this earlier. Yeah, no, that I was like, part of me was happy that I didn't do the hike because whoo, every time I see videos of it, I'm like, "Ugh, do I really want to do this hike?" But I'm happy that the blog post has been helpful. I think people forget that like I have the blog because they'll DM me like, "Oh, Eileen, what did it?" And I'll just send them the blog post. I'm like, y'all, anytime y'all have a question, I guarantee you it's in the blog. I already wrote about it. It's
and it's
there.
free. Like the blog
And
is
it's
free,
free.
y'all. You're
It's
giving the
free
game
blog
out.
post.
Look,
Please read it before you come to me because and there's also stuff on the blog that like I never made content about, right? Like because some things just don't I don't have space to make videos, but I can write a blog post about it. So all of that is there. People ask me about like the photographer I booked in Morocco. There's a whole blog post about it. Book him. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm happy that you have gone through it and looked through it and I hope it's helpful.
yeah. So folks, if y'all need to holler at Eileen, just know read first and then reach out if you have a question after that. Don't hop in folks' DMs asking questions that you already got the answer to right there in front of your face. But if they need to tap in with you, Eileen, where can they find you and more information about the Afro-Medellin trip?
Yes, so you can find me on all socials at Eileen EILEEN_Yvette IVETTE on TikTok as well at Black Latin History. For Afro-Medellin, you can literally, if you go to my Instagram and you click the link in bio, there should be a tab that says join Afro-Medellin and you can see the itinerary and everything like that. You can also DM me or email me regarding Afro-Medellin. And if you ever want to DM me, I can't speak right now. DM me
That's a tongue
outside of
twister.
that trip, you know what I'm saying? Outside of that trip, do it when I don't have a video going viral, okay? Do it when I don't have a video kind of going crazy because I feel like people forget that like the DMs are crazy. You know what I'm saying? The DMs are crazy. I also try not to look at my DMs because I get a lot of hate comments. People be calling me some crazy things. And so if I don't follow you back, usually those DMs will go to like a request folder that I have to intentionally check to see. So I always say email is probably actually the best way to reach me if you need something urgent and important.
Yeah, I think it's best to handle business on email anyways because you keep a paper trail. You ain't got to go look for it. So
You know what I'm saying?
and yeah, definitely, just stay encouraged. I appreciate the work you're doing. I know it can be a lot, even when you are putting out great content. And there's gonna be some haters hiding behind a troll wall or whatever they're doing and just talking
Always,
shit.
always. And you just have to ignore it. Like, I think when I first started, because I was scared that it would affect my job, I was just like, huh. But now I'd be like, y'all are annoying. I'm honestly thinking about doing like a series that is like responding to hate comments and like using that person's comment to showcase like to debunk the misinformation that they're spewing in the comment. So if you see that happen, y'all heard here first.
I love that. I love that. I can't wait to see the comments. Look, yeah, and go ahead and read their ass for Phil too.
Yeah. You gotta do like a classy clap back, okay? Because I think the internet has made people think that we are not real people, that we're not real humans. You get what I'm saying? And baby, I'm nice. I'm very nice. I'm very nice until I am pushed, okay? So, I have to remind people sometimes, like, I'm not the one or the two.
I definitely feel you on that one. Well, look, Eileen, it's been great having you on. It's been a dope conversation and wishing you all the best with all the content that you got coming down the pipeline and your future trips. Travel Hour fam, we're getting ready to tap out of here, but we'll catch y'all on the next episode. Until then, the world is yours.